Hey everyone, Dr. Chem here, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into this incredible, honestly almost invisible technology that is quietly powering our entire modern world. I mean, think about it. From the next generation batteries inside electric vehicles, to those mind-bending brain-computer interfaces you read about, there's one fundamental piece of engineering sitting right at the heart of it all. And that's the advanced electrode. So we're going to explore exactly how these microscopic marvels are designed, how they function, and why they're literally the key to unlocking the future of both energy and medicine.
Okay, let's kick things off with the ultimate question of high-stakes engineering. Seriously, how do you actually translate a human thought into a digital signal? Or, for that matter, how do you perfectly track the movement of lithium ions inside a battery to keep it from failing? Well, the answer lies in mastering the interface between the biological or chemical world and the electronic world. And that exact interface is governed entirely by electrodes.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're taking a scale approach. We'll start with the electrode evolution, move into carbon pastes and inks, and then we'll look at chemically modified electrodes. After that, we're shrinking down to microelectrodes, uncovering the ultramicroelectrode advantage, and finally, looking at how this is empowering tomorrow's tech. All right, Section 1, the electrode evolution. To really appreciate where we're headed, we first need to understand what an electrode fundamentally does. You can really think of electrodes as the ultimate translators. They're bridging this massive communication gap. See, in biological tissues like our brains or in chemical systems like battery electrolytes, information and energy are transferred via ions. But our computers, our monitors, all our digital devices, they only speak the language of electrons. So the electrode is that essential bridge sitting right on the boundary, converting chemical and biological ionic signals into readable electrical signals, and vice versa. It is a really tough job, and the materials we use to do this translation have evolved dramatically over time. Moving right along to Section 2, carbon pastes and inks. Let's look at the macro-scale origins of cost-effective electrode manufacturing. For the longest time, traditional electrodes relied heavily on precious metals, things like gold and platinum. And sure, these are highly conductive and chemically stable, but they have some major drawbacks. For one, they are incredibly expensive, and they also have a high elastic modulus, which is basically just a fancy way of saying they're very rigid. That rigidity makes them a really poor match for soft biological tissues. But then, back in the late 1950s, an electrochemical pioneer named Ralph Norman Adams invented something totally revolutionary, the carbon paste electrode. By literally just mixing cheap graphite powder with a binder, like mineral oil or, believe it or not, fly fishing grease, he created a completely new, affordable, and highly customizable electrode material. That single invention birthed the entire era of disposable sensors and completely democratized electrochemical analysis. And of course, we've evolved far beyond those early messy pastes. Today, we use modern precision manufacturing to create screen-printed electrodes. What we do is take conductive carbon inks, which are essentially just advanced liquid versions of those early pastes, and we print them directly onto plastic or ceramic substrates. This technique is incredible because it allows for the mass production of highly reproducible, cheap, disposable biosensors. It's exactly the technology that makes everyday devices like blood glucose monitors possible, literally putting a powerful electrochemical laboratory right in the palm of your hand. Up next, Section 3, chemically modified electrodes. Because these days, it's not just about the bulk material anymore. It's about zooming all the way into the molecular level and changing the surface. To make our translators smarter, we modify their surfaces using bottom-up fabrication. Imagine literally building nanotechnology one single molecule at a time. Two major techniques we use are electropolymerization, where we use an electrical current to grow custom polymer films directly onto the electrode, and self-assembled monolayers, where molecular building blocks just naturally arrange themselves onto the surface. We're essentially giving the bare electrode a highly specialized interactive skin. Now, you might be wondering, why go through all that trouble just to modify an electrode? Well, the logic here is all about control and specificity. By coating these surfaces, we can actually enhance electrocatalysis, which just means speeding up the chemical reactions we want. We can also improve the electrode's stability in really harsh, varying pH environments. Plus, we can tightly direct and control how charges are transferred, often through a cool process called electron hopping, right within the polymer film. But most importantly, this lets us create highly specific sensors. For instance, we can design a modified electrode that ignores all the random background noise in a blood sample and only reacts to a specific protein or biomarker, which is absolutely crucial for medical testing. Let's dive into Section 4, shrinking down to microelectrodes. We're transitioning from altering surface chemistry to actually changing the physical geometry of the electrode, scaling right down to the cellular level. So here we have the main differences between two absolute titans of in vivo brain research, the Michigan type and the Utah type microelectrodes. When we want to read the electrical firing of individual neurons, we need tools that are actually at the scale of the neurons themselves. The Michigan type is flat, planar, and made of silicon using microchip fabrication techniques. It's specifically designed to slide deep into the brain tissue, taking readings at different vertical depths along its shaft. On the flip side, the Utah type is a bed of tiny horizontal needles. It sits right on the surface of the cortex, recording thousands of neural signals simultaneously across a horizontal plane. The Utah array is incredibly famous because it's FDA-approved and widely used in human brain-computer interfaces today. But, as you can imagine, shrinking comes with some massive engineering headaches. As you shrink the electrode down to minimize damage to that soft brain tissue, you fundamentally alter its electrical properties. And the big enemy here? Impedance. Smaller contact areas mean higher impedance, which is essentially just a higher resistance to the flow of alternating current. If the impedance gets too high, say above 2 to 5 megaohms, the tiny neural signal gets attenuated, meaning it's completely lost in the noise. On top of that, packing lots of tiny recording sites close together risks electrical crosstalk, where the signal from one channel bleeds into another. Overcoming this requires brilliant interface engineering, utilizing those exact precise nanomaterials and coatings we discussed earlier to lower the impedance while keeping the physical size minuscule. Which brings us to Section 5, the ultramicroelectrode advantage. Because at the absolute smallest scale, the fundamental laws of physics actually begin to work in our favor. We define an ultramicroelectrode as an electrode having at least one critical dimension smaller than 20 micrometers. And when you get this incredibly small, something absolutely fascinating happens to the way molecules move in the solution surrounding the electrode. The standard rules of mass transport completely change. See, when an electrode is large, chemical species diffuse toward it in a flat, linear line. But shrink that down below 20 microns, and diffusion becomes radial. Molecules literally rush in from all sides. These ultramicroelectrodes act as mathematical points, lines, or planes. Because molecules are arriving so quickly from all directions, these electrodes can achieve a steady-state current almost instantly. This allows scientists to take incredibly fast, highly accurate measurements, even in highly resistive solutions where normal electrodes would just completely fail. They really are the ultimate probes for real-time biological monitoring. Finally, Section 6. Empowering tomorrow's tech. Let's pull back out from the microscopic for a second and look at the macro-level impact of all this. How does all this deep knowledge of interfaces build into something like energy storage? Well, take the advanced anode-free lithium metal battery. To make these high-energy batteries both safe and long-lasting, we have to prevent lithium from clumping up into dead metal or forming dangerous spikes called dendrites. Researchers use the very principles of electrokinetics and the advanced analytical techniques we've just discussed to meticulously track what's called the lithium inventory. They monitor exactly how much lithium is active, how much gets trapped in the interface layers, and how much becomes electronically isolated. Mastering this specific electrode interface is quite literally the only way we're going to get the dense, lightweight batteries we need for things like electric flame. I want to leave you with this really powerful summary quote directly from the research literature. Modern microelectrodes and multifunctional systems can be used in various applications such as the diagnosis and treatment of diseases, prosthetics, and the creation of brain-computer interfaces, leading to the next generation of neuroscience and medicine. It's so true. Whether we're tracking lithium ions for the green energy transition or mapping out neural circuits to restore human movement, the electrode is the absolute cornerstone of it all. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about the incredible trajectory we've been on today. We've gone from messy carbon pastes mixed with fishing grease all the way to mathematically perfect ultramicroelectrodes. So what barrier are advanced electrodes going to break next? Will it be a completely seamless functional cure for paraplegia? Will it be a battery that cycles infinitely without ever degrading? Or maybe it's going to be something entirely new that we haven't even conceived of yet. The interface has been mastered, which means the possibilities are endless. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dr. Chem, and keep exploring.